Have you ever wondered how many countries there are in the world? Well, it may seem like a fairly straightforward question, it's actually quite complicated. The problem is that it depends on who you ask as to what answer you get, and there isn't one generally accepted answer. Also, the word country has no official meaning. A good place to start might be an organisation that knows what they're talking about, the United Nations. There are currently 193 members of the UN. This is why this is the lowest number you'll ever hear as to how many countries there are. Along with the 193 members, the UN also has two permanent non-member observer states, the Holy See, representing the Vatican City State, and the State of Palestine. Despite not being a member, the Vatican City is a country and is recognised by everyone as such. This is despite the fact that it's a country within a city within a country, and small not only by a country or city standards but more comparable in size with that of a small village with a population of around 800 and a land area of less than half a square kilometre. It is officially the smallest country in the world, and compared to the largest country it is 38 million times smaller than Russia. But size doesn't matter, and the fact of the matter is Vatican City is a country. So, logic would dictate that the State of Palestine is also a country then, right? Well, no, not yet anyway. The State of Palestine does want to be a full member of the UN and submitted an application in November 2011. However, the only reason Holy See isn't a full member is simply because it doesn't want to be, possibly because it wants to remain neutral. It seems unlikely that Palestine will gain full membership for one reason: the United States of America. If you're unaware of the situation in the Middle East, the Palestinians and the Israelis have been waging war on and off for decades, and with Israel being a close ally of the United States, who often provide financial and military assistance to Israel, the US has always voted against Palestine. This is despite President Obama saying he does want a sovereign Palestinian state. The US didn't even want Palestine to become an observer state, but they still won an overwhelming majority. However, in order to gain full membership, the decision lies with the UN Security Council. The Security Council is made up of 15 members, 5 permanent members, also known as the Big Five, and 10 non-permanent members who serve for 2 years. To become a full member of the UN, a country must obtain a 2/3 majority vote. The Big Five consist of China, Russia, France, the United States and the United Kingdom, all of whom have what's known as veto power, in which they can veto any UN resolution and it won't get passed, even if all other 14 members are in favour of it. Therefore, the US can simply veto any membership application made by the State of Palestine. The UN aside though, there are other reasons why you might hesitate to call Palestine a country. First of all, they don't actually have any legally defined borders, and the lines used to outline their claimed territories of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip are actually lines created in 1949 as part of an armistice agreement to end the violence of the Arab-Israeli war, and were never intended to be used as international borders. On top of this, the Israeli army control huge parts of their land, although this is widely considered by an entire international community as a breach of international law. Moving on, the US Department of State lists 195 independent countries, and these are the 193 members of the UN, the previously discussed Vatican City, as well as the Republic of Kosovo. Kosovo is a partially recognised country in Eastern Europe that declared its independence from Serbia in 2008. However, Serbia rejects their independence and claims that Kosovo is a province of Serbia. Currently, 100 of the 193 members of the UN recognise Kosovo as a country according to KosovoThanksYou.com, a website that thanks every country for recognising them in their native language. Kosovo hasn't made an application for UN membership. This is because the UN Security Council's Big Five is split on the issue of Kosovo independence. While the UK, the US and France all recognise Kosovo and have diplomatic relations with them, Russia and China do not. If all 5 were asked, is Kosovo a country, you would get a variety of different responses, but suffice to say the resolution would not get passed. Now, according to a website I use quite a lot, About.com, there are 196 countries. They list the same 195 as the US Department of State plus one more: Taiwan. The situation with Taiwan is an incredibly complex one that basically boils down to whether Taiwan is its own country or part of China. While it is officially considered part of China by the UN, it effectively operates as its own country and China has no jurisdiction within Taiwan. Taiwan's official name, by the way, is the Republic of China, not to be confused with the People's Republic of China, or as they're more commonly known, well, China. To fully understand the situation, we need to go all the way back to 1895 when the Japanese Empire took control of the island of Taiwan from the Qing dynasty. After the fall of the dynasty in the early 20th century, the Republic of China was established in 1912 and the Nationalist Party were elected government. In 1921, the Communist Party of China was founded with very different ideological views, and in 1927 the Chinese Civil War began between the Nationalists and the Communists. Japan took the Civil War as an opportunity to invade China in 1931, and for years the Civil War continues until 1937, when Japan began a full-scale invasion of China and took control of the city of Beijing. The Civil War was temporarily put on hold so China could defend its land from the Japanese. In 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, causing immediate declaration of war on Japan by the United States, and began their involvement in World War II. In August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs in the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the Allied forces issued Japan with a surrender ultimatum known as the Potsdam Declaration. The agreement stated, among other things, that Japan must relinquish control of land that they had acquired via force, and this included the island of Taiwan, obtained 50 years previously from the Qing dynasty. The Allies gave two choices to Japan: an unconditional surrender or face, and I quote, prompt and utter destruction. On the 2nd of September, Japan signed the agreement, which put an end to the Second World War. Sovereignty of Taiwan was therefore handed over to the Republic of China. Later that year, the United Nations was founded, with the Republic of China as one of its founding members and one of the permanent members of the Security Council. The original Big Five were effectively the same as today, except with the Republic of China and the Soviet Union instead of the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation, respectively. So, 1 year later, and the Chinese Civil War started up again, but this time around the Communist forces completely overwhelmed the Nationalist forces, and in 1949 the Communist Party had total control of the mainland, forcing the Nationalists to retreat to the island of Taiwan. This effectively ended the Civil War and led to the creation of the People's Republic of China by the Communist Party. This then created an incredibly complicated situation in which there were effectively two Chinas, but both claiming the exact same land, the whole of China. The People's Republic of China controlled the mainland, while the Republic of China controlled Taiwan, but both claimed each other's land. Things remained like this for the next 2 decades, while the Republic of China continued to represent China at the UN. This was until 1971, when the UN General Assembly voted to replace the Republic of China with the People's Republic of China as China's sole representative, including Taiwan, despite them never having any jurisdiction on the island in their history. In 1991, the Republic of China opted for a different approach and applied for UN membership under the name of the Republic of Taiwan. Taiwan repeatedly reapplied, but with China's veto power, realistically it was never going to happen. The current president of Taiwan, however, does not want independence and said in his inaugural address, no reunification, no independence, no war. However, has since said that he actually does want unification with China. Relations between the Chinese and Taiwanese presidents is good. They both agree Taiwan should not be an independent country, they both adhere to the One China policy. Unfortunately, they still can't agree on who actually has sovereignty over China. Still, Taiwan is pretty much like any other country. They have their own passports, their own president, their own government, their own military. They even take part in sporting events such as the Olympics and the FIFA World Cup, albeit under the pseudonym Chinese Taipei to keep China happy. So, while very few countries officially recognise Taiwan as a country or the Republic of China as the legitimate government of China, most countries do recognise Taiwan unofficially and have Taiwan embassies within their countries. But countries tend to avoid officially recognising Taiwan as a country as it pisses off China. This is the reason why the US Department of State lists 195 countries and excludes Taiwan. Because the United States really wouldn't want to piss off China for, let's just say political reasons. So, is everyone clear on the situation with Taiwan then? No? Well, no one really is, but we need to move on. To the place where I live, the United Kingdom. More specifically Scotland, but it's the United Kingdom I want to talk about. The United Kingdom is generally referred to as a country of countries, consisting of Scotland, England, Wales and Northern Ireland. So, is the United Kingdom one country, or 4 countries? Well, first of all, it's actually a misconception that there's 4 countries in the UK. There's actually only 3. See, while Scotland and England both have a history of being independent countries, and Wales is a little more complicated as it was previously considered a principality but is now a country, but Northern Ireland is not, nor has it ever been, a country. Northern Ireland is technically considered a province of the United Kingdom. This newsletter from the International Organisation for Standardisation clearly lists Northern Ireland as a province, as well as the status of Wales being upgraded from a principality to a country. Although it could be argued that the Principality of Wales ended in 1542 and that Wales has been a country for centuries. A very brief British history lesson. In 1707, the Kingdom of Scotland and the Kingdom of England, which included Wales, joined to create the Kingdom of Great Britain. In 1801, the Kingdom of Ireland joined to create the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Then, in 1922, after the Irish War of Independence, Ireland seceded from Britain and formed the Republic of Ireland. Believe it or not, very briefly the whole island of Ireland seceded from Britain, but Northern Ireland quickly and expectedly rejoined to create the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is what it's known as today. So, Northern Ireland was part of Ireland and is now part of the UK, but has never been a country in its own right. Northern Ireland doesn't even have its own official flag. The St Patrick's Saltire is sometimes used unofficially to distinguish Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK, and the Ulster banner is what's generally used in sporting events and is what the FIFA use to represent their national football team. But Northern Ireland only has one official flag, the Union Jack. So, the UK is made up of 3 countries and 1 province, and while those 3 countries are not independent countries or sovereign states, they are still countries. The term for a country within a country is a constituent country and is not unique to the United Kingdom. The Netherlands is a constituent country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, which contains 3 other countries, Aruba, Curaçao and St Martin. The Netherlands is in Europe, while the other 3 are island countries in the Caribbean some 5,000 miles away. To further complicate matters, the Netherlands is made up of 12 provinces in Europe, as well as 3 special municipalities, also in the Caribbean. These are Bonaire, St Eustatius and Saba, collectively referred to as the Caribbean Netherlands, and the term Dutch Caribbean is used to refer to all the Caribbean islands within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. All 4 countries within the kingdom are considered equal, but in reality 98% of both population and land area are within the 12 European provinces. Another example would be the Kingdom of Denmark, which holds sovereignty over the 2 autonomous countries of Greenland and the Faroe Islands, Greenland being the world's largest island that is not a continent, and the Faroe Islands are a small archipelago north of Scotland, but despite Greenland being over 1,500 times the size of the Faroe Islands, both have a similar population of around 50,000. There's also French Polynesia, which is an overseas country of the French Republic, made up of several islands in the South Pacific, most notable of which is the island of Tahiti. Then we come to a slightly more complicated situation with New Zealand and the countries of Niue and the Cook Islands, who are in an agreement known as Free Association. There are only 3 other countries in the world under Free Association, and those are the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia and Palau, all in free association with the United States. The major difference is that all 3 of these countries are members of the UN, while Niue and the Cook Islands are not. Freely associated states can be thought of as both independent or not, or even both. It's kind of like a Schrodinger's cat situation, in which a cat can be thought of as both dead and alive simultaneously. Niue and the Cook Islands can be considered both independent or not simultaneously, so we can call these 2 Schrodinger's countries. And finally, we come to a category of countries, and I use the term loosely, that have received little or no recognition. One example would be Somaliland, part of Somalia that declared itself an independent country, but has thus far received absolutely no recognition whatsoever from any country, UN member or otherwise. Of course, there are other examples, all of whom have received at least some recognition, albeit extremely limited, and in some cases not even by any UN members. External recognition is a key attribute to be considered a country, and therefore it would be a bit of a stretch to call any of them countries at the moment. So, how many countries are there in the world? Well, there really are no right or wrong answers. Well, I mean there are wrong answers. 5, for example, is a wrong answer, but because of the ambiguity of the word country, there isn't one generally accepted answer. Hopefully you understand that the point in this video is that I wanted to provide you with the necessary information so that you could apply your own judgment to get the answer. But if you really want some numbers, some possible answers would be just the members of the UN, counting the Vatican City since it's also a country, counting Kosovo, the most recognised country not in the UN, counting Taiwan, the unofficial country, counting the State of Palestine, the UN observer state, and then we could count the unrecognised countries, the constituent countries, and Niue and the Cook Islands. Then things could get a bit out of hand and we could start calling everything a country. For example, Hong Kong, Puerto Rico and Bermuda, none of which are countries, but given the dictionary definition it wouldn't seem too far-fetched to call them countries. Then we could come up with a near infinite number of answers depending on how you apply the use of the word country. But it seems the most widely accepted answer is 196. But it's important that you understand the answer of 196 so that if something changes you can adjust the number accordingly. Or not. For example, if Kosovo hypothetically became the 194th member of the UN, there would still be 196 countries. But if you used 194 as your answer, then you would need to add one. An important note to end on is that everything in this video is correct at the time it was uploaded in late June of 2013, and things may have changed depending on when you're watching this. Well, thank you very much for watching my very first YouTube video, and be sure to subscribe because I have dozens more ideas for videos that I can't wait to start making. Thanks again.